Hey guys, welcome to another edition of the Techs and the City podcast. My name is Daniel Walters. We're actually filming this on December 12th, the day of the Techs and the Cities this month. Super exciting for that down here at Workplay Theater. Chase is off running errands to kind of finish getting us prepped for that. So while we're doing that, we're going ahead and recording the podcast with these two guys. Super excited to have them. Chris Madsen and Cody Clark. I'm gonna just go ahead and let's get started. Give me an introduction to yourself. Give me an introduction to yourself, and we'll kind of start flowing from there.
All right, sounds good. My name is Chris Madsen. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Senior software engineer with Alloy, and
very descriptive.
Yes.
Lots of words there.
Man of many words.
How long have you been there?
let's see. Well, doing part-time contract, probably 2-3 years now. 1 year full-time, and back to contract.
Gotcha. Awesome. And Cody,
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Yeah, my name's Cody Clark. Again, thanks for having us today. I'm a VP of Engineering at Alloy at Intermark, Alloy Digital. We go by lots of names, but we create custom software solutions for our clients. And yeah, excited to talk about Chris's journey to finding us and us finding him, and talk about the experiences that he brings to us as well.
Yeah, and it's been actually like a really interesting journey because like when we were talking over email and everything. So you're previously a firefighter. What first off, let's talk about that for a minute. Like what made you want to be a firefighter? Because every kid growing up at some point, I think, boy or girl, like sees a burning building like, whoa, that'd be cool to put out.
Well, it was
Or was
actually
that-
an easy journey for me. My father's a firefighter, retired from Hoover, and his father was also a firefighter. So I'm third-generation firefighter. And knew from when I was young that's what I wanted to be. And from there, there's an Explorer post, which is like the step after Boy Scouts. That's kind of career-oriented.
Okay.
Started that when I was 15, became a volunteer when I was 18, and by the time I was 19, I was working full-time for City of Midfield. Spent 5 years there, 20 years at Vestavia Hills Fire Department, and then I retired.
Then you retired.
Then I retired,
You retired at, do you mind if I ask at what age?
44.
So you retired at 44. How long ago was that?
It's been about a year and a half now.
So year and a half, you're in retirement. You're a firefighter. You've been active most of your life. I'm assuming you didn't want to just like, sit down and twiddle your fingers or anything like that. So tell us a little bit about like your thought process after you retired and like what you're going to do next.
All right. So in the fire service, your schedule is a plus and it's a detriment also. You're always working holidays. It never fails. But with our schedule, typically people work 24 hours on, 48 hours off, and it allows for a lot of time on your off days to pick up another hobby or a profession. A lot of firefighters work 2 jobs, whether it be at 2 different fire departments or a side job doing contractor work, whatnot. So one thing I was big on, and I always tell all the rookies, 1, start your retirement fund. 2, find out what you want to do on the side. And I had a plan going through my career that 1 year before I retire, I know what I want to do. And I want to, the day I retire, step into that job.
Nice.
So throughout this whole journey, started out, I was doing graphics.
Okay.
Did some photography. I needed a website. Let's build a website. And it just kind of steamrolled into finding out that coding is what I really enjoyed. And decided that's what I want to do.
What did you build your first website in? Was it straight HTML? Was it WordPress?
It was straight HTML.
Was it Joomla?
To date myself, it's a piece of software no one's ever heard of. Hot Dog Express.
Hot Dog. Okay, I have not. If anybody has heard of Hot Dog Express, please put it into the comments. That's hilarious.
Yeah, that one sticks out in my mind. So anyway,
real quick, I'm curious. On the website, kind of going through that and getting like you realized that you wanted to code. What was it about like coding that just like really appealed to you? Was it I'm gonna get flack for this, I'm sure, but like, was it the syntax? That's the thing that drove me away from wanting to be a developer or coder. But like, what were the things that like really attracted you to wanting to be a developer and code?
I would have to say probably I've always been into computers. From the Apple IIe in first grade to the Tandy 1000 our dad bought, we've always, my brother and I both have always been into computers. So it was kind of a natural step, wanting to know how things work, problem-solving skills, things like that. And just found interest in it. And it's just that dopamine rush of, hey, I got it working.
That is such a high. Every time you're like, you've been searching for God knows how long for that semicolon or something like that.
Oh,
and all of a sudden-
absolutely.
we all know that feeling. All right. So, retired, knew you wanted to do developing. How did you get to the role you're currently in? Because this is your first role after retirement, correct?
Correct. So during this journey, getting close to retirement, in the fire service, we do car safety seat inspections.
Okay.
So we were doing pieces of paper, and it was a little monotonous. And as I was going through this coding journey, I was like, okay, there's a perfect project. That's my little pet project called DocuSeat. And it was just an iPhone app. Allows you to document the car seats, take pictures, get the signatures. Everything's on one little screen and backed up to the web or the cloud. So that's where I kind of got my start in this whole coding journey. Is like, okay, this is what I want to do.
Are they still using that app?
Well, funny story there. So we built the app. We used it for about 1.5 years in the city. Everything's going great. I'm ready to kind of expand and go to other departments. And COVID hit.
Oh.
So during the COVID, there was no interaction with the public.
Yep.
So that kind of got killed off and just kind of pushed to the side. So I was able to bring that to Cody and them.
They let you retain that IP?
Yes.
That's awesome.
So I had a pet project, and during this, like Cody had mentioned, my brother was contracting for them and kind of said, hey, I'd like to kind of get into this. So he brought that to Cody and showed him my project and everything that I've done and the skills that I've obtained, and that's where we're at.
The rest, they say, is history.
That's right.
So Cody, let's pivot to you. So Chris's brother, what was his name? Eric? Jonathan. Sorry about that. So Jonathan comes to you and says, hey, I've got this thing. I've got this guy. Take a look. Like walk us through kind of some of your thought process there.
Yeah, sure. So Jonathan has been a great partner to us and doing contracting work for us. And yeah, came to us and, I told him I always want to know any great people that he knows. We'd love to keep a relationship, build that relationship. And he came to me with his brother, which is, yeah, sure. Well, it's another person we can talk to. I'd love to do it. And, he kind of explained, like he's coming out of the fire service. He's not like a professional developer. I was like, that doesn't matter to me. Let's talk to him and let's see what he can do and those kind of things. So, yeah, it connected us. And, Chris has lots of skills, right? You get a lot of skills, 25 years in the fire service, things that we look for running a company, regardless of the subject matter, leadership, teamwork, ability to think on your feet, respond to change, react quickly, core things that a firefighter has to have. So, when I'm going to interview candidates or talk to folks, he's already got more experience than I'm ever going to have in just his 25 years that he just did there. So for us, as looking to hire folks, and specifically Chris, it was a slam dunk. He knew what he wanted to do. He was passionate about it. He was motivated to do it. Saw his work. That's a good, I'm sure we'll get to questions later about what are some things to recommend to folks to do that are wanting to be like Chris. And it's really take that leap, find those opportunities, whether you're a member of a church or you're a member of an organization, and they don't have a website, take a stab at it. You just need that one person to take the chance on you, or the risk, right? If somebody asked me if it was a risk, I'd be like, heck no, it was not a risk. I knew what I was getting into. But yeah, I think Chris has been a great asset to our company.
That's awesome. So obviously, Chris, you joined the team. What are some of the things that you guys have worked on since since Chris has been on board that you can share? Obviously, there are some things you may not be able to share, but what are some of the fun projects you've worked on? What are some of the challenges you've overcome? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'll say generically speaking, right, as much as we can. Like Chris came in, and you guys will see as this call goes on or this podcast, he's a man of few words, right? But he really did a good job of stepping in and taking over leadership of a kind of an existing team, getting involved, making sure you bring the rest of the team along. I gave him some really tough problems, upgrading some things that I couldn't finish. I ran out of time and kind of fell to his plate. But again, it was just, he calls me sir still. Yes, sir. What do you need? I'm like, don't do that. You don't have to do that. But that's how his attitude was. It was just whatever you need me to do next. And he's done everything that we've asked him to do. And he does it with a smile on his face. Great team member, always gets positive remarks from everybody on the team. But yeah, I would say, at his level and other folks at his level in our company, they get the hard stuff, right? And so sometimes that's not the most fair thing to do, because in that case was my problem, but he took it on for us. But yeah, and I'd love to hear some of your thoughts about some of the work that we've done together.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, as you said, it's just there's no. It's kind of like the fire service. Every day is a new thing. It's not just one monotonous task, one after other. So there's been a lot of variety that I've worked on. Biggest challenge has been, just hopping from different stacks to different stacks, some that I've never even seen before, and just kind of getting up to speed.
I'm actually curious about that particular piece right there. So jumping from a different stack for this project to a different stack for this project, different stack for this project, like, obviously every house, if you're, going to put out a fire, is different. Like, but you're going from stack to stack. It's kind of a mindset shift. Talk to me about like how you were kind of shifting some of your mindsets, but applying the things that you knew from firefighting to the things that you were doing now. Does that make sense? What I asked, or is it completely crazy?
Yeah. No, I get it. It's. I really don't have an answer for that. It's just something that you do. In the fire service, like you said, every single call, it's different. So it's just a mindset of just approach every problem with an open mind, logical thinking.
Of those types of things, like, the critical thinking, the logical puzzles, the, working with other technical minded pieces or people and pieces, what has kind of been like since you've started coding for a living, like what are the one or two pieces that you're just like, man, that's part of the reason why I get up every day?
It's the like you said, the problem solving skills, the logical thinking, those things. I've always been that person that tinkers and wants to figure out why and why did that happen. And sometimes that's a detriment because I'll get too far into the weeds trying to figure out what exactly this is doing rather than just solving the problem. But yeah, just the logical thinking and the problem solving skills. I just enjoy that kind of aspect of the coding.
What are some of your favorite tools to use for coding? Like, are you using Sublime? Are you using Coda? Are you using any of these others? Are there any other things that like, oh man, just how Git does this one thing? Like, it's absolutely amazing for people. Like, if there's one or two tools, and that this one's coming to you next. But if there's just like those one or two tools that like you feel like just you have and you'd love to share them with everybody else, what would those tools be?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm pretty simplistic. I use VS Code. Okay. I don't use a lot of plugins. It's just coding.
Okay. We're all eating off the AI apple right now too. We're trying to really push that a lot with Claude, and I'm a big Bolt.new guy. If you guys have seen any of that,
I've seen a little bit
on the team. And not as a replacement for anything, but it's almost like what I'm trying to encourage everybody is it's like you have a senior developer there waiting to do code reviews for you. And so I don't know if this is you wanted me to go down there.
No, please do. I'm
favorite
very
tools
curious
to use and what I'm trying to help push the team down. It's, I'm never going to ask Chris to ask AI to write this function for him. But I'm going to ask Chris to say, hey, after you write it the way you would, ask AI, hey, what optimizations would you apply to this? Or what more maintainable things would you do to this? And what I hope that the team does, and what I've learned from even doing that myself, is that it's going to do things very similar to what I just wrote. it's going to do it in a way that they're going to take my magic strings out and they're going to put it up there at the top, or they're going to create me a map, or they're going to create me an object. And I'm going to learn just by asking the AI. I still wrote the code. It's still doing what I told it to do, but it might do some things that I didn't know existed yet. And so if you think about that as a junior or someone even getting new into the field, it's a great way to start. You can learn as much. That's the power of the internet, right? Today, we can learn as much as we want to learn, as much as we're ready to apply. And I think things like that, the AI stuff that we're really trying to look in, and we're leaning hard into it, as most people, I think, probably watching this,
Absolutely.
This podcast today are. But it's got to find the right spot, the right place to fit for you. And I think Chris and others on our team, we're going to do some lunch and learns next year to share with the rest of our team how they use AI, because everybody's going to use it differently, different results, different success factors go into that. But yeah, favorite tools, we're just very simple. We use VS Code. We deploy stuff out to Lambda. We serverless functions. We're not, although we're the Vercel tree now too. We love Vercel. So shout out, we're partners with Vercel.
There you go.
We like Netlify too, so Netlify partners as well. But yeah, we like tooling that makes the job simple, right? Or easier. This job's not simple. It just needs to be easier.
Yeah. Well, and I love that idea about how you guys are using AI, because I feel like there are a lot of people out there who are pushing, AI, particularly in like the development space, is like, oh, let AI do your development and then you just code check it and everything like that. And like, it's something that I can write in 30 minutes may take me 3 hours to troubleshoot if AI puts it out there. But taking the approach that you're taking of like, hey, I'm going to write this thing and then go have AI give me suggestions, go have AI troubleshoot it. Like, I definitely think more and more the direction that we're going with AI, that in itself and of a model is like how AI is going to be most beneficial to most companies. It's not necessarily going to replace the work, particularly the complicated work that you guys do. But having it as, like you said, that senior developer who can look over your shoulder without having to bother a senior developer until, maybe you've gotten it 60% of the way, but with AI, you get it 80% of the way. And then by the time you get it to that senior developer, it's like, boom, and they're impressed and, everybody's happy.
But also understanding everybody's not comfortable asking questions all the time, right?
That's true.
You have to realize that,
point.
Especially managing a team, there's a ton of different personalities, and sometimes people love to ask for help, and sometimes people are like Chris, and they're going to spend hours and hours and hours because that's their personality and their mentality. But I want to make sure that everybody on our team understands they have the ability to get help. And it can be from me, it can be from Chris, it can be from AI. Never be stuck on a problem, but yeah, you're exactly right. I think there's opportunities for how AI can shape things, which isn't replace roles or people or whatever, but kind of supplement that. And the added value for the way that I talked about writing it, it's now also looking at my style. So when I say I want to add a new feature, or it's going to spin up, in the case of Bolt, it's going to give me all my files and everything I need, but it's going to try to follow what I've been doing as well. So I'm still shaping the project, whether I'm directly writing it or not. So
let me ask you this, Chris. So obviously we've talked about some of the positives and everything like that. What's been some of the challenges that you've run into, and how, like, think maybe of like one or two in particular and how you've overcome them?
I think that goes back to what I was talking about earlier, is all the different type of stacks and the different frameworks and things that, during this coding journey, I was specific on an iOS app and a Node.js backend. Now coming into the agency where there's a lot of different projects, I guess the biggest challenge has been learning those and getting that mindset to shift between the two. Can sometimes, like, you leave one framework, you go to the other one, like, okay, let's take a second and remember exactly. Okay, I remember now. And it's just some of those little oddities is kind of like the biggest challenge, is just keeping up to speed with those.
Yeah, out there, especially nowadays, like, there are just so many. It feels like it doesn't even matter if it's like code bases, if it's just any. There's so many SaaSes out there that you can use to go and use and learn and dump and this, and it just like it can get absolutely overwhelming, especially in agency world where like you have different requirements for. Yeah, no, I totally get that.
Yeah,
Totally
or
get
different,
that.
you know, most of our clients, we create independent AWS accounts. So just the context switching of, oh, am I on the right account? Do I have the right keys? Or am I going to update the wrong database because I forgot to change my value? Like, it's just a lot of context switching, which we're trying to get better at. We're trying to get people more dedicated to projects longer term. People in Chris's role, they're going to just carry that flag for us of like being able to jump on projects that are behind, that are struggling, and use that problem solving skills that we've talked about a lot here today to just say, there's an answer to every question, right? Like you just got to really sit down and say, what are we trying to solve? And a lot of times people are so worried about trying to build the elegant, huge solution when sometimes this is all we need.
Yep.
And I think folks like Chris, right, if you go back to fighting a fire, we could go over here and do it this way, or we could go right here straight through the front door by busting it down. They just think those different ways. And that's what I've really enjoyed about having someone like Chris on the team.
So, advice you would give to somebody who's pivoting their career, maybe from firefighting, maybe from some other career, like what particular advice would you give them looking back on your experience and what you've done?
Well, one thing a lot of people don't know about me is one of my
Besides
passions.
being a man of many words.
Exactly. One of my passions is like economics, macroeconomics, and some of the people I follow, like Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger. Their mantra has always been never stop learning. And if it's one piece of advice I can give, it's that every single morning I wake up, my first hour of the morning is drinking coffee and watching YouTube. And it can be something that's new. It can be just watching something that, you know, brushing up on the basics. Sometimes you get so deep in the weeds that you forget the basics. So if it was one piece of advice, it would be never stop learning.
Cool. What about you? What about you, Cody?
Advice to career transitioners?
Career transitioners or people who are looking to work with agencies
Yeah.
like Allo Digital and Intermark.
So I'll point to a few of the things that we talked about today, specifically in Chris's case, that I think would apply to most people.
Yeah.
You know, passion, you know, he understood from the jump. He took a holistic look at, like, what did he want to do, right? But he also had to evaluate, am I good at what I want to do, right? And there's a real hard line and hard questions we have to ask ourselves, like, this is what I want to do. Can I be good at it? And he kind of set out and figured out how to do that, whether it's learning, watching YouTube videos, creating his app. So he kind of fully, you know, devoted himself to that, right? As much as you could with a family and wife and children, all those things. But so I would say that, you know, understanding what those things are that you want to do. And then secondarily, right, we talked about how Chris got connected with me and Alloy is through a relationship that I had, that obviously he had with his brother, but the networking potential. You know, Chase, we talked about Chase. Chase isn't here, but Chase is a great person that has many connections. And I kind of said it earlier, you just need the one person to take the chance on you, right? So you get prepared, you do the work, you understand what your value add is. In Chris's case, like I mentioned, it's even more than the leadership and the teamwork and the team first. But there's everybody out there has something of value that someone's going to value from their past career, whether it's a teacher or whatever it is. Just got to find the right ways to market that, market yourselves, become valuable with whatever skills you can learn, and then using a network of people to help get your name out there and connect you with folks. So a lot of different things, I would say. I'm trying to give you one.
You're
but,
fine, you're fine.
But I think networking is a very strong skill. Events like Tex in the City tonight.
It literally stole my transition and segue. I love it.
Maybe I'll be the host next time. We'll see.
Hey,
I'm kidding,
you
I'm
never
kidding.
know. Guest
but,
host.
But things like tonight, actually, from one of the first Tex in the City, we met Erin, if she's watching. She was here, and then we hired her. So
There you go.
Proof is in the pudding, right? So, so I think those kind of opportunities to continue to learn, to network with folks in the industry that can connect you with others. People want to see other people be successful, right?
Yep.
So people are happy to make connections, make invitations, schedule lunches. Make sure you seek those opportunities out.
Well, and that's part of the reason why we do this podcast is because, you know, we want to highlight the talent that is, you know, out in Birmingham and, you know, the other cities that we're coming to. Because, you know, that talent is out there and is really good at what they do. And, you know, I fully recognize I tend to be more of an outgoing type person. Other people may be a little bit more timid and don't have as many words to say. Sorry, Chris, I keep picking on you. I apologize. But like that is, especially in your career and looking at your career, I completely agree with you. Networking is hands down one of the better skills that you can have. Even if you're timid, even if you're an introvert, and wonderful events like Tex in the City are definitely opportunities that, you know, those of us who are in the ecosystem, we put out there because we know so many good things come from it. Like you said with Aaron, like you guys picked up Aaron because of a Tex in the City, you know, and just like showing up and being there, being open to, you know, meeting new people, having new and strange and weird conversations. Like I cannot tell you the number of weird conversations I've had at networking events, including Tex in the City. But you know that I think you're hitting the nail on the head with the networking thing. Like that's just an absolute skill people have to need to have.
Yeah, and from those networking events, there's other things you can know what you need to learn, right? You may not know from the jump if you're coming new to the industry what's the next hottest framework. You just may not know those things, or maybe you've done a little bit of reading and you're trying to understand, why should I use Next, or should I use Astro, should I use this or that? This is a place where people can help navigate that and answer those questions for you. And so, like, we had a lunch yesterday, and Bryant came, so he'll be here tonight, I'm sure. But I just shared with him Bolt. That night, he made a LinkedIn post talking about Bolt. And so, you know, it's one of those things, is like the more you network, the more you're going to learn. The more you're going to learn, the more valuable you'll become as a, you know, marketable person, which I hate that term, but you know what I'm saying? You're creating value for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, especially nowadays, like, you know, thinking about your career, thinking that long term, you know, you have to have the new skills. You almost have to be interdisciplinary in the things that you do because, again, different code bases and structures, you know, having that different mindset, being able to shift back and forth to that mindset, you know, more in my world on the MarTech side, like, you know, certain CRMs, I know 6 of them, and each one of them I have to do that kind of shifting of the mindset and having that interdisciplinary and having the people to leverage because I don't know everything off the top of my head. So I absolutely love it. Thank you guys both. Any saved rounds, anything else you'd like to share before we start wrapping things up? We'll start with you, Chris. If not, no big. I know you talk a lot. But no.
I do. Yeah, the biggest thing is just perseverance. Stay in it. There was many times through my journey that I was like, is this really for me? But it's just keep pushing and keep learning.
I love it. I love it. Cody?
Yeah, I think similarly, invest in yourself. Figure out those ways that what you want to do. How do you lay a course out there for what you want to complete? It's not an overnight thing. I think Chris would tell you that. It's many long nights, early mornings, whatever it is, trying to figure out how you can get better that day, right? And if you wake up with a mindset of I want to get better today than I was yesterday, I think you'll be really successful.
Love it. I love it. Thank you guys both so much for coming on the podcast. We really appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching and listening to us drone on, or at least me drone on, the very interesting gentlemen we have here and them sharing their stories. So we are going to wrap this up and head out to the main theater for Tex in the City in Birmingham, December. I know this one is the Agile versus Agile microdosing with Chris and Jeff.
Should be a war out there.
I'm super excited. I'm super excited to see what Jeff is bringing because, like, I'm a big Agile guy. I love it, and like I'm curious to know like what Jeff is thinking about the microdosing and kind of doing all of those things. So I hate that you guys may have missed it, but you can attend the next one, which I believe should be in Birmingham, should be in March. That sounds. We'll go with it. Tentatively March. If it changes, we'll let you know. But if you're willing to make the drive, we would love to have you at Tex in the City, Huntsville on January 14th. We're going to do it again, same kind of timeline, 5:30 to 8 p.m. It's going to be at the camp in Huntsville. And I don't know if have you guys been to the camp in Huntsville? Mm-hmm. It is this amazing, it has these different trailers in it. It's very eclectic, but they also have like stages around and like food trucks. Like it's an absolute blast of a place to go and grab a drink. So please make sure to join us January 14th in the new year at the camp, Tex in the City, Huntsville. The topic will be Huntsville of the future, year 2035.
Okay.
So we got a couple of great people who are going to be speaking upon that. Thank you so much to Generator up there in the camp. And the Apollo Foundation for helping us kind of put that on up there as well. Obviously, we want to thank all of our sponsors, which Deploy Alloy, Chase's company, really appreciate that. Alloy Digital, True Coders, Birmingham Now, and of course Workplay, for hosting us to do not only this podcast, but the Texas City event. So thank you guys again for joining us. Thank you guys for listening to us and watching us. And we'll see you next month.